Le Nissan Kick-Play 2025 a beaucoup de plus. Apple CarPlay intégré pour jouer vos tunes préférées, des fonctions avancées de sécurité, un rendement énergétique remarquable, puis même la petite odeur de char neuf qu'on aime tant. Tout ça en plus pour moins. Le Nissan Kick Play 2025 est le véhicule neuf le plus abordable au Québec. Achetez-le à partir de seulement 22 774 $, incluant un rabais à l'achat comptant de 2 600 $. Profitez de cette offre avantageuse chez votre concessionnaire dès maintenant. Jusqu'au 2 mars, des conditions s'appliquent. Détails chez Nissan.
Well, will you need a driver's license when the cars drive themselves? Is it the end of the driver's license? How close are we to self-driving cars? There are a lot of companies trying to solve the challenge of autonomous vehicles. Waymo, Cruise, and Tesla are just a few of the companies making progress. And last week, Tesla extended its quote-unquote full self-driving beta software to anyone in North America who paid for the feature. But there are still many questions here. Is the software safe? Are these companies close or close enough to really making self-driving cars a reality? With more on this, let's go to an expert on autonomous vehicles. Bilal Farooq joins us. He's a Canada Research Chair and Associate Professor at Toronto Metropolitan University. Bilal, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So let me get your take here. There's a whole bunch of various efforts. I guess Tesla is the one that's most top of mind because these are the ones that, people can buy and they're cars that people can own. Some of the other things that I mentioned are more robo-taxi efforts. But what's your take here on autonomous vehicles and how close we really are to self-driving cars?
So currently where we are mostly at what we call conditional autonomy. And by conditional autonomy, what I mean is that there are situations where the autonomous system in a car can operate completely autonomously, for instance, on freeways, highways, and so on. But those conditions are limited at the moment, and those conditions are gradually been increasing, but we still have maybe a few years to wait for them to become more widespread in terms of where they can operate.
And you say you still got a couple more years. What are the challenges? Like, why will it take a couple of years? What are the things that are difficult that make it hard for a car and the software behind it to drive itself?
So the software behind it has what we call a perception system, and the perception system it through sensors, through other data, it tries to understand its environment in real time, and based on that understanding, then plan the operations of the vehicle and use the controls to actually operate that vehicle. So there's a perception system, there's a planning system, and then there's a control system. And the perception system itself, it is where the AI is trying to understand the environment, and AI primarily works on examples. The more example you give it, the better it will become. And if you look at, especially in downtown Toronto or Montreal sort of situations, there are several complex situations. There are several cases that needs to be looked at. There are pedestrians coming in, there are cyclists coming in, there are streetcars involved, there are all sorts of other objects involved. So that level of complexity at the moment is something that is not been handled 100% all the time, and that's where the key, technological development needs to be made for them to become completely, ubiquitous.
Bilal, how safe are these systems right now? Because I think when I talk to people about self-driving cars, they immediately go to safety and they say, well, I'm concerned, I'm worried that these cars will not be as safe if they're being controlled by a computer. What can you tell us on that end? Do we have any data? Do we know if they're safer or less safe than a human driving?
So U.S. released the data from, I think, July 2021 to May 2022 regarding the operations of these AVs and also the ADAS sort of the driving assistance sort of systems. And based on that, first of all, there were the number of accidents. They were much lower than any, or at least at the same level as a normal vehicle accidents would be. And then within that, if you look at the accidents that involved pedestrians or cyclists, they were less than 3% among those accidents. So with that, one can at least fairly say that the accidents involving AVs, they have been pretty low, and specifically them and vulnerable road users. So going forward, I think these AVs will become much more cautious and with much more understanding of the operations and how pedestrians and cyclists are behaving. So going forward, I would be more positive in terms of the safety than being too much worried about it.
We're with Bilal Farooq. He's an expert on autonomous vehicles and an associate professor at Toronto Metropolitan University. So, Bilal, with what you just mentioned, if the stats show that the self-driving cars or autonomous vehicles are safer, how should governments be looking at these vehicles from a regulatory aspect? How should the public be looking at them based on those statistics? Should we be embracing them more?
So we should be embracing them more in conditions where they are much reliable. For instance, on highways, on freeways, and so on. And as the technology is maturing further, that those scenarios can be extended, and the regulations attached to them should be adjusted accordingly. For instance, currently, if you look at the regulations in Ontario, they are specifically for a fleet of AVs that are at least level 3 or above, and there's no regulation for a highly, autonomous vehicle for personal use. So they are such that we would need to update those sort of regulations. There are some insurance-related, requirements. Those requirements need to be looked at as well. So definitely, we need to keep our regulations constantly updating, such that they are aligned with the level of technology that is available in commercial vehicles.
Bilal, do you have a take on who you think is the closest? I mentioned a few companies off the top. Maybe there's someone else you want to bring up, but who do you think is the closest to solving the challenge?
So companies, for instance, like Gatik is one of the examples that is concentrating on a very specific use case. They are looking at business-to-business goods delivery, and that involves mostly highways where they are not interacting too much with pedestrians or cyclists or other users. They are only interacting with the other vehicles. So those sort of companies with very specific, much straightforward use cases would be such that they would have much more success in short term. And in long term, if the technology it catches up and solves all these complex interactions, then there would be more adoption in terms of for instance, shared mobility, what Waymo is doing, for instance, or the kind of cases where they can be adopted at scale and in a cost-effective manner.
Bilal, we have to leave it there. I want to thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much.
That's Bilal Farooq, an expert on autonomous vehicles and an associate professor at Toronto Metropolitan University.